Good morning, ISOGx. Hi, how are you? Welcome. I'm Guy Rosefelt, and I'm here to talk about deception technology and you. Or, I'm no fool with honeypots. Now, who here knows what a honeypot is? Anybody? Raise your hand. Can't see a thing. Okay. How many people here know what deception technology is? Anybody? Oh, okay, I can see bouncing over there. Okay. They are two related but different things. So, I'm not going to go through these slides because we know there's lots and lots of cyber attacks happening. There's lots of bad stuff happening. If it wasn't for the fact that bad stuff were happening, we wouldn't be having ISOGx today, right? So, the most important thing is, if you don't know that these threats are here, and you don't know that things are getting worse, you're in the wrong conference, so get out. All right, so what is the value of deception technology? The value of deception technology is about confusing attackers. The idea is to give organizations the time to be able to deflect a hacker from attacking real resources so that you can defend against them, or at least learn more about them and try to minimize the impact. Okay. It also allows you to get the fingerprint of what the attacker is doing, who they are, the types of TTPs they do to be able to do these kinds of attacks, and figure out how you can build a defensive strategy against them next time. It also gives you the ability to locate where these attackers are coming from, who the attacker group may be, and allows you to prevent the lateral spread, because if you can keep them from getting into your organization by having them hit something that is innocuous, it keeps them from being able to sprout through your organization. Now, one of the best places that you want to have deception technology is where you have a lot of IoT, but you can't defend against them with real security devices or endpoint protection. So medical IoT is good, SCADA is good, manufacturing OT is good. You want to be able to have these systems there in place to be able to distract attackers from going after devices that don't have a lot of security. So, what is a honeypot? Well, it is actually bait to attract flies. The idea is to attract the bad guys and to keep them distracted and to keep them away from unauthorized access from real things. Now, pushing the button, there we go. The first deception technology was developed at the first known cyber attack. This cyber attack happened in 1988, 1989, and is documented by a gentleman named Clifford Stahl in a book called The Cuckoo's Egg. And what this was an attack where there was a Russian spy in Germany who was trying to access US government installations and was only discovered by accident by Clifford Stahl, who was a research scientist in Lawrence Livermore. Now, you heard about Tor, right? Tor is all these anonymous relays that you can jump around to get to so no one knows where you came from. Well, back in 1989, there was no such thing as Tor, so what the Russian hacker did was he went and jumped from US government installation to US government installation, trying to hide where he was at, and it was very difficult to track down where he came from. I will tell you, I know a bit more about this because if you actually read the book The Cuckoo's Egg, I was at one of the organizations that was used as a relay for this attack, and I participated in some of the threat hunting capability. And I will tell you, back then, log files were limited. People didn't know how to do this stuff. There was no forensics. Trying to track down a hacker who was jumping from site to site to site was a very difficult thing to do because there was still infant internet and not a whole lot of security tools. So the way that Clifford was able to catch this person is he went out and created virtually an entire government organization that looked real, that had government secret documents to try and attract the hacker, so that while the hacker was busy trying to gather all these secret documents, he could learn as much as he could about who the attacker was and where he came from. Now, there are two different kinds of honeypots. There's one for research, to understand more how attacks are done, And then there's one that's more for operational uses, which we're here to talk about, which is how do we stop bad guys from doing bad things? Now, what is deception technology? Deception technology is a superset of honeypots. Honeypots are usually a system to mimic something operational. Deception technology covers a whole range of that, such as at the network level, we have decoys. These are servers, web servers, database servers, something that looks like a real server that people will go attack, a workstation or whatever it is. Then we go ahead and have lures. Lures are servers that have real data. So they look like a CRM database, or they look like a file server with lots of documents and stuff that's on there. The idea is to simulate real data and systems to make them look attractive to the bad guys. The last one, honey tokens, is much more difficult. So as you increase the level of complexity of the data you're trying to mimic or create, it becomes more difficult to do to make stuff look real. So what honey tokens are basically documents that look like real documents that would contain useful information for an attacker to go after. They couldn't just be fake documents. They'd be a Word document that you'd open up and look at it, and it would have something important like maybe specifications for a product or something. Now, when we look at deception technology, and I'm pushing the magic button, okay, the idea here is a decoy, again, is basically a host. Any kind of server, web server, database server, laptop, anything that looks real to the bad guys that will attract their attention. The lure is what is on that server, which is it running a SAP database so that it has financial information? Is it running some kind of wiki that might have R&D information, other kinds of stuff? And then the last part is the documents that go in there. Like, am I going to build fake documents that look real enough? And that takes a lot of time and effort to go do. So when we look at different kinds of deception technology that are out there, you can break them up into several different categories. There are discrete deception servers that you have standalone in your environment, which take a lot of setting up to do, a lot of care and feeding, but you'd like to be able to deploy those, again, closer to things that can't be protected, such as IoT. You may have integrated deception technology that's part of other things. For example, you could have integrated deception technology built in with your next generation firewall so that the minute someone tries to attack, it's going in the firewall can redirect them or capture them and make sure they stay contained. When you're doing this, you can have on-premise, where you can build certain kinds of deception servers because you have a limited amount of resources, processing power to be able to build a fake server. But you can redirect these guys up into the cloud where you have a lot more resources and can build deception servers with higher fidelity. They look more realistic, but the bad guy doesn't know that he's been shifted to the cloud where he's wasting his time. Now, when we talk about deception architecture, and we start over here, we're looking at, you have a firewall, right? Everybody have a firewall? If you don't have a firewall, get out, because you're in the wrong place. Your firewall protects all your real stuff. That's what it does. What your firewall can do then is offer services that look like real servers, right? Web servers, database servers, file servers, exchange server. You can have a fake exchange server with known exchange vulnerabilities that bad guys are waiting to attack because they're very excited to go do that. And then you have the ones up in the cloud. Now, when a real user comes in and they have authorized access, the firewall is going to say, okay, let's go ahead and you have access to all the real data, no big deal. It's when the bad guys come in and they try to do something malicious or suspicious that your deception technology can capture them and entrap them and confuse them while they're trying to figure out what's on this server that they think is really, really interesting. And again, if they're starting to be very, very demanding in terms of their attacks, in terms of trying to delve deeper into what's on the server, you can redirect them to a higher fidelity one up in the cloud, making it more difficult for them to differentiate the deception server they're talking to from a real server. And then once you're able to understand what they're doing, you can mitigate what they do. You can server the connection. You can try to do forensics to go back and find out where they came from, because you've gathered a lot of data as to what these bad things are doing. And then, of course, with all that stuff, you can log all that information, track it, and then use that as part of threat intelligence. And I'm pushing buttons. Okay, so you've got local decoys, which are very simple to set up. They do basic things. TCP server is not a big deal. You've got the cloud decoys, which are much more sophisticated, but more difficult to set up, which is why you want to put them in the cloud. But they can have things like fake vulnerabilities on them that bad guys really want to exploit. Okay, and then what you do is you'll be able to capture them at the local level and proxy them up the cloud, where they got more fun things to play with. Different kinds of servers include web applications, web servers, web components. So I could pretend I'm an Apache server. I could pretend I'm a WordPress server. I could do anything that would be very interesting to the bad guys. I can look like an FTP server, database server, GitHub server. It doesn't matter what it is. Based upon the kind of business that you have, your deception servers want to look like something that you would normally have in your environment. Email. Email is great because everybody's trying to blow up and go after Exchange servers. That's the fun one to have capture. Bad guys will be stuck playing with Exchange servers for a very, very long period of time. The idea is when you use deception technology, you want to have the flexibility to be able to deploy the kind of fake servers, the kind of services that you can mimic as part of your organization and not be obvious that they're fake. So the more flexibility you have, the better off you can be. So for example, a ransomware honeypot goes, I'm going to bait files on a server so that if a bad guy tries to attack one of these bait files and tries to do encryption on it, what we'll do is we'll identify the encryption process, we'll kill the encryption process, and then we'll identify the application that ran the encryption process, so we know what that is, and what is where the application file came from, so it becomes easier to track down where these bad guys are doing things. So being able to stop ransomware by sending them off to a fake server is a great way to go. And I pushed one. And you want to be able to log, track everything. Case study. So we had a telco company that had an issue. They had plenty of security devices all throughout the organization, but ransomware attacks still happened in the organization. They had a hard time stopping. Okay. They also failed to pass a penetration test that was done by the company's parent company. So how did deception technology help here? The idea here is you want to be able to use activated deception technology to look like a target that the attacker will go and hit with ransomware. The idea here is they deployed mostly RDP servers. They deployed mostly SMB decoys. They look like Windows systems, ripe and easy to attack for ransomware. After being deployed for only a few weeks, the firewall detected that, there was someone going after them with a ransomware attack. And the part that was important was the customer's SOC didn't see the attack coming in. They didn't have the resource to see that. So the idea is, once we knew what was happening, the security team was able to access and monitor the deception host, install EDR software, be able to remove the ransomware, track what the attacker was doing, and be able to monitor everything that the attacker did. So the most important thing about this, they were able to stop the ransomware attack before it could impact any operational system. So, to close this out, deception technology is not new. It's a proven technology. It's been around for a while. Deception technology is valuable in environments with limited security or unmanaged devices. Again, in IoT, IOMT, OT environments, that's a big thing. There are different types of deception technologies that can fit your environment based upon what your requirements are. Deception technology can be difficult to deploy, so we need to be able to find ways to make it simpler to do for you guys. Now, having said that, if you want to talk more about deception technology, we're over there in the titanium adjacent area. So I'd be happy to talk to you more about deception technology in general and how we try to solve that problem. And again, thank you everybody for your time. I hope you guys enjoyed the presentation.
Thank you very much, Mr. Rosefelt, right there for that very energetic and awakening talk. So basically, it's like dangling a shiny object in front of a toddler to take their attention away from what they wanted to do in the first place. There we go. And of course, giving you time to respond to whatever attacks might be going on in your system. All right. So I actually felt like that was a very enlightening presentation, but let's summarize it for everyone. So we have, of course, the deception or I'm no fool honeypots that this type of technology actually gives you. You have the flexibility to change your deception server to catch the bad guys. So there are so many different options. It doesn't matter what sort of industry you're in. Of course, they can find something that's tailor fit for you. And of course, give you the decoys that you need to be able to stop the bad guys from accessing the data that they're after in your system. So there we go. Thank you so much. Of course, Mr. Rosefelt right there from our titanium sponsor Sangfor through WSI.